I made a little note here in the book here. I write big point. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Nothing presented here is intended to be an excuse for terrible behavior. But if we stay focused on symptoms, in this case, the symptom of identification with the aggressor, we can easily forget the cause. The problem is abuse and what results when it is not stopped or treated. Let's look at it this way. If two people contract the same flu, one might have a fever and chills, and another might get a sore throat and a headache. They both got the same germs, but their bodies react differently. We need to know all possible symptoms of the flu to find the best treatment and prevention for the flu itself, no matter how it manifests. The problem we are facing in the epidemic of abuse and mass mental illness associated with it here in America is that we do not yet have a common understanding of the full range of abuse symptoms, which we need if we are going to stop its spread and invest in the best ways to treat it. Prevention ultimately is the cure, and it is based in an understanding and implication of high-tech human relations on every level of our structure. There's so much in that paragraph to unpack, so you're here, unpack it for me.
Yeah. So a big thing that I want to say is that I think is not general knowledge, but I've seen this over, so many years of working with people, is that when abuse and neglect are untreated, when people do not find safety and they do not find a way to heal from the impact of what happened to them, which was harmful behavior, hurtful behavior, dangerous behavior from other people, there are many symptoms. And we've talked to, there's many symptoms like depression and anxiety and obsessiveness and rage and acting out and acting in, all the way on a continuum to homicide and suicide. There are two big patterns that I talk about in my book that I don't think are common knowledge. And they are this, that people tend, when they don't get any help or any rescue, they tend to follow one of two paths. And one I call, and I didn't make this phrase up, this is a psychological term, it's called learned helplessness. They were so overpowered that they really have given up believing that they have any power to help themselves, to get to safety, to be heard, to be believed, and to get help. And so their response when there's a threat from the outside, whether it's one person or their culture, is to freeze and lie low and try to just endure it. And you see this in so many people who, and we say, what's wrong with them? The parent who stood by while their child was beaten to death and didn't raise a finger. Well, they didn't come by that helplessness in that moment. Something set them up to actually be unable to respond. So we have more and more people in an abusive culture and an abusive society who become some degree of learned hopeless and helpless. And they're easily persuaded, they're easily dominated, and they're easily controlled.
Yeah.
Other main outcome are those people who will do anything not to feel their vulnerability, who are they identify with the aggressor, and they become like the people who hurt them in some way. They become dominating, they become controlling, and they often become abusers themselves. So if you have these two patterns proliferating in a society that does not stop abuse in its homes or in its culture, in its politics, then you have more and more people who are easily dominated and who are submissive, and you have more and more people who have identified with the aggressor. And I say this in my book, so I'll say it on your show. When you have people who have identified with the aggressor, who cannot tolerate vulnerability and who often punish it in other people, who run for office, then you have extreme mental health danger in politics. And I think we're seeing some of that.